everyone. This is Racquel and welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. As always, it's an incredible experience for me to come online and feel you out there and feel myself in the web of connection with so many of my beloved friends and clients and others whom I don't know or haven't met yet, but I feel like we've been connected for many lifetimes sometimes, and I look forward to being in connection with you. Hi, Johanna. As always, I really had no idea what was going to come in for us before I started this, and just as I was clicking the Go Live button, I was prompted to bring in a subject that is difficult to talk about, but one that is very necessary to talk about. I know it's something that a lot of us try to avoid. It's like the white elephant in the room. Often in conversations and sessions, there's always an intuitive feeling, or often an intuitive feeling, that there's just something not being talked about. Someone will come in and say, I've been really depressed, I've having fights with my mate. Hi, Priya. All these things that are the normal functions of life that we have to process through and come to a better place and come to a higher consciousness. But very often, too often really, there is such an undertone of something that the person is not talking about. And when it finally comes out, hi, Marina. When it finally comes out, it's almost a traumatic thing to even discuss, because there's so much defensiveness about it. It's so hard to even open the subject that I understand why Spirit is prompting me just to go ahead and talk about it. What I'm talking about here, that I'm being so thoroughly prompted to talk about, is that we often, especially younger people, but also people my age, we have become a culture, a society of looking for our answers outside of ourselves. That we have been indoctrinated into a paradigm of not wanting to feel pain, that pain is something bad, that pain needs to be eliminated in whatever way possible, that feeling fear, feeling anger, feeling sadness, and any combination of these emotional things, anything that's not elation and fun and happy, is considered anathema to our way of life, and something that we need to deal with and find a way to get rid of. And in the course of that, from the time where we have a binky stuffed in our mouth when we cry as babies, we begin to understand that we need to do something to not have to feel our feelings, especially the ones that hurt. Of course, in the process of that, we rob ourselves of our innate healing capacities that we have, that we're born with, because we're so busy making everything wrong, and our parents make it wrong for us, that we don't grow to understand that by going through the process of the pain is how we grow. An athlete knows this very well. But in most of life, we are taught to take some kind of medicine some kind of food do something to get rid of the pain, to step aside from it, to not have it. It's wrong, and we don't like it, and we hate the way it feels. So we search outside of ourselves for the remedies. And as a child of the 60s and 70s, I can tell you that it pretty much started there in a big way. Our way of just zoning out on things that were uncomfortable. And we stayed children for way too long, avoided much responsibility because we became afraid to face the pain and stress of actually building a life. And then we lived and we matured, and hopefully most of us came out of that mentality. But what we came out of the mentality with is a whole assortment of addictions. So we think about addictions as something like alcohol or drugs. And yes, also there are emotional addictions. As you know, we can become addicted to certain behaviors. We can become addicted to things that are very destructive to us. Eating too much food of the wrong kind. We can become emotionally addicted, actually, to becoming abused. We can become addicted in so many ways to so many things that we live a life of constant searching and seeking for that outside of ourselves that's gonna try to make us feel better. And usually those things don't serve us at all. So the elephant in the room is something that I'm addressing, especially to those of you who are a bit younger. And those of you who think that it's really okay to engage in various kinds of drugs, alcohol, that it's really okay, that you have a handle on it. Sometimes you call it medicine. And I guess it is a kind of medicine, all of it, because it's used to anesthetize us, or it's used to try to gain spiritual connection for us, try to enhance our sexuality, try to, it's fun. We become dependent on it. And the sad thing is that one after another, I'm seeing and hearing the stories of how these substances actually have backfired because we overdo everything in our Western society, especially our American society. We overdo it all. And before you know it, those things are running us. The number of times that I have heard a beloved client say, I don't think I'm ready to give up whatever the list contains. I don't think I can actually get along without it. How can I go to a party and have any fun? How can I feel as free and great about myself as I do when I take this drug or that drug? And there's so many to choose from now. And a lot of them have unknown effects on us. So the elephant in the room is actually our predilection to substance abuse. And you may not realize that you're doing it. You may not realize how much you're doing it. You may think you're okay. There's 1,000 ways to rationalize using substances to take care and put a check on our pain. What happens is really that we become stalled in our growth. We think these things are helping us expand and grow, and maybe under the guidance of a true teacher and using some things very seldom would have that effect. Mostly we become dependent on it, even to the point where we can't find spiritual connection without the help of some kind of substance, medicine. We are beings who love ceremony, and often the ceremonies are tied in to the usage of drugs, of substances of various kinds. So those substances become ingrained in our love of ceremony, and the ceremonies don't feel the same without the drugs. They can be. The thing that we don't realize is how stunted we become in our spiritual and emotional growth when we default to trying to deal with our emotions by taking drugs. When we do that, we stop. Because we are supposed to learn as we go through life to be able to face into the difficult pain experiences that we have. We're meant to be able to feel the bitter sweetness of loss and grief. We're meant to experience it fully. In that valley of experiencing our emotions is so often where we find God, where we find spirit and spiritual connection. Often when we're down on our knees in some agonizing process and dark night of the soul, where we feel completely lost and bereft and hopeless, is when we finally reach out in a real way for help from our spiritual support, from our guides and angels, and from our Creator, from creation itself. We find ourselves in the depths of our emotional experience. We find ourselves finally surrendering to something bigger than our own egos and our own mind, self-talk. But if we never allow ourselves to actually engage with our own nervous system, our own emotional body, we become stunted. We become unable to not only deal with our own emotions, but our children's, our mates. We'll do anything to not go there after a while. And that's why I'm so prompted in this moment to energetically and verbally let you know somehow about the importance and the timing of our coming back to ourselves without thinking that life itself is an illness. That life itself is something that needs to be fixed all the time. That is the mentality that exists right now, psychologically, in our culture. We treat ourselves as being ill, as being something wrong. Take a look at your life. Are you always trying to correct something in yourself? Are you always finding fault with you, with your basic beingness? I'm breathing. Because this is such a delicate and important message to deliver to you. It's not just about not taking drugs. It is about not defaulting to something outside of yourself, to keep fixing yourself. It is about trusting your inner experience of life itself and trusting a knowing that you have what it takes to process through anything that is challenging you. Anything. Just because it feels bad doesn't mean we're not supposed to feel it. Hey? If you can get that, that is my work. It's diving into those areas of shadow, being safe to take a look at the deep shadowlands of our lives and how we've been running away for so long in so many different ways. We will accumulate wealth. We will try to satisfy our ego needs to feel okay at any cost. At any cost. That allows us to be highly manipulated by the powers in our societies that know how to sell us on finding happiness and joy outside of ourselves. Here, take this cruise. You'll feel great. You know, you're bombarded with it all day long in so many ways. Are you willing to come into a higher consciousness now, where you drop your dependency on things that are sold to you to make you feel better? Are you willing? This is a steep path that I'm asking of all of us. But I know from looking at who's online with me right now and knowing who might be on here later, that you also know the value of experiencing the depths as well as the heights. That you know what it feels like when you finally cry out all your tears, only to find some more as you spiral deeper into your healing journey. You know the value of it, and if you don't, maybe it's time to start looking inward instead of outward. Maybe it's time to take down the false god that we worship so much of joy. Have to be happy, happy, happy. Why aren't you smiling? This is a poisonous, toxic flow in our conditioning. Maybe it's time to get over it so that we can live a full experience of our lives in every way, in every moment, being able to be engaged in our moments without worrying about how they're going to make us feel. Without worrying about how they're going to make us feel. That is the message, my friends. Please know that it comes to you with great love, understanding, and compassion. And it comes to you from the highest source there is in creation. A request to find a new way of being. Thank you. Much love to you. See you in 2 weeks. And perhaps a surprise video next Wednesday. Lots of love.